What?
Hello, everyone. Welcome. We are here with Dr. Cara Gubbins, and I'm going to give you all just a few more
Okay,
minutes.
look forward to meeting you. Bye.
And if you can mute, I think I'm going to go ahead and mute all. And find Dr. Cara here so I can make her a co-host. Okay. So many people joining. I apologize, Dr. Cara. I need to find, where are you? Wait.
I'm in there somewhere. I unmuted myself.
Okay, perfect.
So
Okay,
that's probably
good.
all that we need, right?
Good. Yes. Okay. That's
I'm
why.
just looking at all these faces. It's super fun to see everybody.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Thank you. Welcome, everyone. There's some new faces here, some old faces. Thank you all for joining us. If you're not on camera, no big deal. If you are on camera, I just ask that you stay on camera. If you have to get up or go get something, totally fine. Just turn your camera off because sometimes it's distracting to the speakers. So if you could do that, that would be great. We're going to be keeping you on mute during the call, but Dr. Cara is going to be opening it up for questions when she has pauses. So if you have a question, make sure you use your emoji hand. A lot of times in the Wednesday calls, we just say unmute, but because there are so many of us joining today, we are going to have you raise your emoji hand. We have a little over an hour. Dr. Cara has generously offered to do about 15 to 20 minutes extra. So we'll end the call around 11:45. So if you have a question, make sure that you raise your emoji, or you can also put it in chat. So make sure you're using the chat a lot. I see that somebody already started the chat. We have Dee from Vancouver, Canada. Welcome, Dee. Thank you for coming. Love to see our Canadian friends here. All right, so let me change the view here to speaker. And good morning, Dr. Cara. How are you?
Good morning. I'm really, really good.
Well, thank you so much for being here. And I know we want to jump right into this. So I just want to do a short little intro for those of you who don't know who Dr. Cara is. Dr. Cara Gubbins is a professional animal communicator, and that's what she's here to talk to us about. And she is the best-selling author of over a dozen books, including Animal Chakras, Divine Beings, and The Confident Animal Communicator, which I have right here. She is the founder of the Animal Communicator Academy, a 10-module program that walks you through your complete transformation from aspiring to successful animal communicator. Her mission is to help co-create a world in which all beings are recognized as equals and all animal lovers are confident animal communicators. And you can learn more about Dr. Cara and her books, programs, and products at caragubbins.com. So that's CARAGUBBINS.com. So without further ado, I am going to send it right over to you, Dr. Cara.
Thanks, Leah. I'm so happy to be here, and really, I love seeing all of your faces. I love that there's already a good question in the chat, so I'm actually going to start with that. And Leah, if it's okay for you, just out of curiosity, I'd like to invite everybody to put in the chat either Sarah, if they found out about this call from the Shelter Animal Reiki Association, or Cara, if you found out about it from me, because we have such a big mixed community of Reiki practitioners and oh, hi, Michelle, and animal communicators. And I always really like to tap into the energy of the group so I can customize what I say to who's here. And it helps me if I know who you are, what your background is. I love, there's so many that I'm seeing the chat come through, and there's so many that are saying both. I love that. That's so cool. So I'm just gonna look. Oh, it seems really even, like about half and half. I might have this tiniest bit of edge, Leah.
Oh, I think you do. Once you put it out to your group, it was like, boom, you know, 150 people sign up. So that was really wonderful.
That's awesome. But it's still about half of what, you know, what we've got. So So the first question that I saw in the chat was somebody saying, do animals communicate with telepathy? And the short answer is yes. In fact, we all communicate with telepathy. And I'm going to start, rather than jumping into what's the learning about, I want to step back and talk about why animal communication using intuition works. And it's basically because of energy. So telepathy is what we used to call our sixth sense, right? It was one of those senses that we all have that we just couldn't put it on a physical place on our body, like our eyes or our ears or fingertips for touch or something like that. But telepathy was that unknown, mysterious ability to tap into intuition and the non-physical. And so everything about non-physical, intuitive communication, information exchange kind of fell under that category. But now we've gone deeper into telepathy and we've been able to break it down and understand a little bit more about how it works and the channels for it to work within our own bodies and our own beings. So the big picture is that everything is energy. Everything is energy. So I'm knocking on my desk. I think it's physical form, but it's a form of energy. My thoughts are energy. My body is made up of energy. So we are energetic beings. Ooh, there's stuff going on the screen there. So we're energetic beings that are living in an energetic world. And telepathy works because of that form of energy, because we are energy and everything around us is energy. And energy exchanges information, right? So when you're doing Reiki, you're working with that energy field within yourself, the energy of another being, and then also the energy that is connecting you. It's like we're all these little drops of water in the ocean of energy. So our intuitive abilities, our way to receive intuitive information in the world comes from this foundation of energy within us and around us. And our intuitive telepathic senses are what I call the inner hearing, the inner seeing, the inner knowing, the inner sensing, the inner feeling. So we have all of these senses that connect us to the outside physical world, but they also connect us to the outside energetic world. But we don't feel them or sense them in exactly the same way that we do with our physical senses. There are inner senses. So those same channels are where we receive telepathic or intuitive or energetic information. I feel like those words are interchangeable. So the thing about it is that we can get distracted by our physical senses. So the more we can focus in on our inner senses, the more we have access to that more subtle, energetic information that is coming to us. And because I love animals so much, I use this natural ability that we all have for connecting energetically, intuitively, telepathically with animals. And so the process of animal communication is that exchange of energy through those intuitive channels, through those intuitive senses, whether you're sending information to somebody else or you're receiving information from somebody else, the process is exactly the same. I'm going to stop there because I think that's a pretty good foundation for everything else. Leah, are there any questions that are coming to your mind?
Well, while you were talking, I was just reminded about your quiz that you have to kind of focus in on what type of person you are, what type of communicator you are. Because some people, it's like you said, they get messages, or maybe it's just a knowing. And I was really, I took the quiz, and we'll give you a link to the quiz here in the chat. But I took the quiz and I'm a knower, which was so like dead on, because that's how I get information, not necessarily from animals, but like from people. I just know. I don't know how I know. I just know. And so I think it's really interesting that you're delving into that. And I think that for all of us who have blocks about this, or like, oh, I don't know what kind of communicator, or I'm not getting it the way other people do, that's the biggie, right? We compare. And so for me, I think I don't know which one is more popular. Maybe that is a good question to ask. Is it the listener, the knower, the seer?
Um, I love the word popular. I'll choose knower, please. um, I I think we all have all of these senses, right? We all have all of these abilities. I think the more common ones are probably the visual and the auditory, but I don't even know if I could say that. They might be pretty evenly spread throughout the population. I think I've had, I don't know, 10 or 20,000 people go through this quiz at this point, and the pattern that I see is that it's pretty evenly distributed, but the knower is the least common. I think I can safely say that. I think the data back me up on that.
Yeah, I can see that. And I think that that's the one, if you're a knower, it's the hardest because you aren't really sure. Whereas if you're getting images and you can validate and verify those images, it's a little bit easier, or you're getting words. So yeah. So yeah, well, why don't we dive just right into what, because you have so much to share today. And again, I'm so grateful for this. Why don't we just jump into the first point that you wanted to share, which is the three phases of learning?
So this is, I think, we've kind of touched on one of the myths. You brought it up, Leah, of animal communication and why it doesn't work for some people. And it's because we're trying to do it like somebody else,
Mhm.
right? The other thing is it's a natural ability. So many of us, especially if we're empathic, if we're intuitive, if we're sensitive, all of those kind of labels and words that people use to describe us, we can feel like we're not, we'll have some experience of it, but then it'll feel like I don't know why that happened, I don't know how that happened, or we'll block it because we get nervous about like performance anxiety, or the stakes are too high, or it's too much responsibility, or I'm not sure if I can do that, right? So one of the things that I like to share with people is these three phases of learning animal communication, because even though it is a natural ability, we all are hardwired to be able to do this. The process of really becoming comfortable with being an animal communicator and using our intuitive, energetic, telepathic abilities, there's a process that happens both on the practical practicing tools and skills level, but also on that interpersonal growth level. And so if we break down the process of learning into three phases, which I just beginner, intermediate, and advanced, like couldn't be simpler than that. Each phase has a different focus and a different purpose and different challenges and different victories. So in the beginner stage, this is where most of us have to really overcome some conditioned learning from society, from families, from all of our left brain go 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 kind of training that we have in the world. This is where I think there's just four basic steps. You ground yourself and center yourself. You set yourself energetically, which now makes sense, right? Because we talked about the energetics of it. So you get your energetics taken care of. You know how to send signals intuitively to somebody else. You know how to receive, which is what we've been talking about, your intuitive receptive senses, right? What's your strength? Start there. We'll talk more about that later. And then how do I put this into a meaningful exchange? So grounding and centering is number one. Sending clear communication is number two. Receiving clear communication is number three. And then four would be like a conversation, a meaningful exchange that can go back and forth. And breaking it down in this way makes each of those a little bit easier to master because you're only focusing on one part. And then putting it together at the end is where it all kind of comes together. So in this phase, you're laying the foundation for success. It's like you're really, if this was a house, we'd be literally, framing it and pouring the concrete foundation and putting up where the rooms are going to be, right? We're framing it in. We're not really creating the house, all the pieces yet, but we're creating the foundation, the structure. And all of the practices in here are leading up to the first time that you do animal communication intentionally, and you cannot deny that it worked, right? So the victory in this phase and the way you're ready to move to the intermediate phase is that you're like, oh yeah, I did this, I know this, nobody can take this away from me. I'm not doubting it, I'm not discounting it, I'm not second guessing it. This happened and I did it. So that's the first phase. I'm going to stop because I tend to go, 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 go. So I'm just going to say, is there anything in there, Leah, that I should explain more, or is that making sense?
No, I love that. When you talk about grounding, what are your grounding tools? Like I know and Karen said she likes the analogy of building the house. That was a really good analogy. Because in Animal Reiki, we do a grounding exercise, like our breath, breathing into our belly, expanding the belly, and then breathing out. So that's a really good grounding one. What grounding techniques do you practice and recommend?
I really like, I set an energetic grounding cord. So I think of my energy field like a balloon, and then I set an energetic grounding cord for that balloon that connects that balloon to the center of the earth. And I just do that with my intention. I really like anything that makes you feel calm and centered. Your breathing exercise is beautiful. Breathing is a great way to ground and to center. Heart centered, anything, breathing into your heart, feeling your heart expand also is going to do that. Walking in nature is going to be grounding for you. I really like EFT, emotional freedom technique. So to calm and center, you can just tap on these acupressure points, and that also really works really well to help ground and center you, to just calm you, be present. And I really think that anything that anybody does, any tools that you have that get you to that place where you feel really calm and centered is a great way to ground.
Rachel's asking, by grounding, do you mean you're present in your body and in the moment?
Yes, I think that would be a really good way to explain it. And in the Animal Communicator Academy, I actually have 5 energetic tools that do that. And that becomes our daily energy routine for grounding and centering and just putting that practice puts it on demand, that you can just go, okay, boom, I want to be grounded and centered, and then you know exactly what to do to get there. But there's tons of other ways, and anything that gets you present right here, right now, out of your thinking brain and into your, wow, I wonder what's going to happen, this is so cool part of your brain, it will work.
Love that. And we have 2 other questions, but they might be more appropriate because I know you're going to talk more about this. Mary Lynn wanted to know, is there a way to verify the messages from an animal? And then Kathleen wanted to know, what are examples of sending signals?
Okay, so let's do the sending signals now, and let's do the first question later. I think it'll make more sense towards the end. I think you're right.
So too.
So examples of sending signals would be like if I'm sitting here at my desk and somebody comes to the door and my dogs bark, total daily scenario, it happens all the time. What I can do is I can send an intuitive image to them of closing their mouth. That would be sending a message. I can say the words, thank you, I'm here, it's okay, you're done. which is what I do if I get up and walk over there. But I will also send the feeling of calm. So any of our intuitive senses we can send as a message through our intuition, our intention. So it could be an image of sitting quietly in front of the door. It could be an image of their mouth closed because we don't need the barking. I got the message. It could be the feeling of calm. It could be the feeling of gratitude. Like, thanks for letting me know. It's really important information. I'm really grateful that you shared that with me. Anything that would go along with that. So we can send those images and emotions and words. I could send the word of thank you, please be quiet now, if that's what I want to say. So any of those intuitive senses can be used to convey a message. Does that answer that? The whole Zoom mute thing.
Sorry about that. Yes, I think it does. We can ask Kathleen. We had a couple more. I think they might be more appropriate towards the end. So if we want to just continue with your points, and then we can add these questions.
Yeah. Okay, so here's the deal. It's like this phase, the beginner phase, it's just the start. It's very tender, it's very fragile. We're very vulnerable. And I really encourage people to be protective of themselves. Don't try to do too much. If you have people that you can share that you're, learning this and practicing this, that's great. But what oftentimes happens is people go, oh, you're an animal communicator. Can you ask my dog why she's sick? And that is really high stakes. And what happens when we raise the stakes too high too soon is we get blocked and we shut down and we start thinking too much and we block that intuitive flow. So one of the reasons I like to share these three phases is so that people understand what are the skills in each phase and what are the reasonable expectations of ways to practice. Which brings us to phase 2, which is the intermediate phase. And in this phase, what you're really doing is now you know you can do this, but you maybe can't do it on demand. You maybe can't do it when you're stressed out. You maybe can't do it when it's a dog that you know versus a horse that you've never met or whatever. Like our brain really gets in there. And everybody is wired a little bit differently. So this intermediate phase is really a time for practice, really solidifying your animal communication skills, for exploration of learning, so maybe you know what your primary strength is, what your animal communicator type is, but now you want to work on all the other intuitive senses as well. So you're going to have a whole bunch of practice sessions in here where you're just reaching out and communicating in some very basic level with as many animals as you can, so you can just get really comfortable with the skills. So you give your energy tools long enough to kind of rewire your whole body and all of your intuitive senses, so you can learn your unique way of working with energy and intuition and telepathy, and also so you can clear a whole bunch of inner blocks. Which we'll talk about more in a minute. But the goal here is really to get comfortable with just using animal communication at all. Again, like if you start to have people who say, my pet's really old, I don't know if they want to pass on their own or if they want help through euthanasia. Like, this is not a good time to take on those practice sessions. That is really big, high stakes stuff with a lot of responsibilities. So I really encourage everybody to be, again, protective of your time, your ability, and to practice in ways that are easy and non-threatening and low stakes, just to explore who you are, how you work, what this is, and get comfortable with it and start to put animal communication on demand. So it's not something that might happen once in a while. It's like, oh, I want to talk to this bird in my tree in my yard, and I'm going to do that right now. So the victory here in the intermediate phase is, I can do this, and I know I can do this my way. So I always hear the Frank Sinatra song when I talk about this one. because that's part of it. Is I do it my way, but you're going to do it a different way because you're different. And you need time to have enough experiences to really see the patterns and to understand how you work. So this is really a time of exploration and practice, and keeping the stakes nice and low. I want you to be successful, and I want you to have successes all along the way that keep you going. I don't want you to go too far too fast and then you just shut down and you're like, no, that's not for me. That's too scary. Right?
Yeah,
So
that's great advice, because I think many of us, when you were learning it, we're like, oh, I want to do this. And you want to just jump right in. And actually, this is a really good segue into Kathleen did have a follow-up question. She said, when you send words, do you see the image of the words not spoken?
totally, you can, and I recommend it. The more you align all of your intuitive awareness, the more clear the messages that you're going to send. So if, so we'll use the dogs barking at the door. So if I'm like, okay, I'm not going to communicate with them until I'm really clear, like, this is what I want. I want them to sit down 3 feet away from the door. So I'll picture that. I want them to, I want to tell them to please be quiet, to stop barking. I want to feel calm. Everybody's going to be calm when I get to the door. And if I can get clear on those 3 things and send a unified message, it's going to be more easily received. And they're more likely to do what I ask them to do, which is not guaranteed. I got to say that.
Okay, good. Because I think that answer, hopefully that answers Katie's. So she says, how would the knower tell the dogs to be quiet in the barking at the door scenario and the sensor? I feel like you answered it, but
so the sensor, you really want to send that body sensation. You want to get clear in your body of what that would feel like in a body if they were calm, quiet, sitting down. What would those senses be? Sensors and knowers, it's kind of challenging, especially in the sending. For the knower, you would just go into that place of, I know that everything is okay, and this is the scenario that I want. And so it is, right? Captain Picard, make it so, right? That's a little bit more challenging, but also if you're a knower, remember that doesn't mean you can't send images. It doesn't mean you're not able to send words. It just means that the doorway for you when you're receiving, the easiest way to receive is going to be that there's going to be direct knowing. So if you're focusing on images, you might miss the direct knowing. But in terms of sending signals, you can use any or all of those intuitive senses as well. You're not restricted.
okay.
And there are people who have, what's it called? Aphasia? I can't remember the right word, but who have a hard time visualizing. Like their brain literally isn't wired to picture things that aren't physically in front of them. And if that's true for you, that's totally okay. Send the feelings, send the words. Don't worry about the image so much. We have all these 5, 6, whatever, 5 intuitive senses. We didn't even talk about, smelling and taste, right? So we have all of these ways to work with what we have, and we're all different. We're all going to have strengths and weaknesses. Please don't go, well, I'm a knower, so I'm out. Right? No, you're a knower. That's freaking awesome. Start there and then use that as the doorway to all of your senses.
Great. I think that answer, I know Agata said she wanted to ask about it and Fantasia. Can you practice it to get better? But I think that your advice about, just doing other things and not worrying about it would really help you, because I think when we worry about something, we get attached to it. That's also going to be a block, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And you don't have to. And my understanding is that truly hardwiring, no matter how hard you work at it, I don't know how good you could get at it. So your energy and your time might be better spent on what is available, what's more easy. Like I really want you to work smarter, not harder. So finding out what is the easiest way for you, getting good at that, and then adding other stuff in.
Absolutely. I mean, really what I'm getting from this takeaway is just start small and be patient with yourself, and don't bite off too much, because it's just the same thing with animal Reiki, the way we teach it. People just want to jump in right away. And it's like, there's steps in order to be successful that you need to take, in our method, especially. And then you go to the bigger issues. But, it's kind of like learning to play the piano. You're not going to learn to play the piano and then schedule a concert the next week, right?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. It's the same thing. And I think that, all these, the intuitive arts, the energetic arts, let's call it, in the past, they were for a gifted few. That's the only people who were doing it. They made it look easy. They made it look like, oh, poof, like, I don't know how I do it. I just do it. But that's not where we are anymore. Like the last 20 to 30 years, things have really changed globally around all of this stuff. And we can all come back. But yeah, I love what you said, Leah. Like, we can take our time. We can practice a little bit at a time and go in a certain order that makes it more likely that we'll be successful, that we will be there, where it is like, oh, I just do it now. That's just what happens.
Right. Yeah, I love that. So I think that we've covered the first thing, but why don't we talk about blocks? Because
Well, I've got
okay,
one more phase.
then you go. Okay. So sorry about that. Go right
Yeah.
ahead. Sorry about
Yeah,
that.
yeah. So that was the first two phases: beginner, intermediate, and
All
then
right.
the advanced. This is like, wow, this is what everybody thinks is going to happen after, all at once, right? This is where we can really use animal communication to partner with animals to address the challenges and issues that they are facing, or that they're facing in their world, or that they're facing with the humans in their lives. And the goal in this phase, like, you're still learning, you're still practicing, but you're starting to raise the stakes and be in slightly less comfortable situations. So we're looking at behavioral issues with pets. We're looking at lost animals, whether they're pets or Winter Worththorn in Africa is always saying, like, well, we had to find this lion. Like, okay, anybody can be, not where we want or expect them to be. So a lost animal, aging is a really big issue for pets and people. End of life, also super important. And then a lot of animal communicators use their abilities to communicate with animals who have passed on. And currently, more and more animal communicators are using animal communication with wildlife, whether just to communicate with the animals in the neighborhood, in the nature around them, but also for conservation issues and for um, human and wildlife interaction issues, boundary issues. So animal communication can be used in so many ways, and I mean, we could have a whole few hours about that. But what this phase does is it gets you comfortable in now you're ready, right? Now you're ready to actually use animal communication to partner with animals to look at what's going on here, what's the problem, what's uncomfortable, what's not working, what's the challenge that you're facing. And these are the places where the stakes are highest. There's the most emotional challenge when you have a lost pet. Like, that's huge for all of us. Saying goodbye to a pet, also huge for all of us, no matter what, no matter how okay we are with our intuition and with our whatever our perceptions are about end of life. It's hard to say goodbye to somebody that we love that's been with us. So if you're an animal communicator in these situations, number one, you have to be damn good at it to show up and be ready for whatever comes up, whatever emotions are there. Number two, you need to have done the work on yourself to be a clear channel for that, so that if you do have a lost pet, you're not reliving your childhood worst case scenario when you lost a pet who never came home, and that blocks you from doing the work, right? So that's why that intermediate phase is really about clearing a lot of your blocks. But more are going to come up here. Specific ones are going to come up here. Memories, unresolved issues from your past around aging, saying goodbye, whether you were ever allowed to argue in your family or not, if there's behavioral issues that you're helping people work with, right? Like, this is where there's the fine tuning of you, the instrument for this communication to happen, being that bridge between humans and animals, but being the clearest, safest bridge that you can be, and the most empowered and the most empowering bridge that you can be. So as an animal communicator in this phase, we're learning how to be a leader. You're learning how to use your abilities in service to others, and you're learning how to empower others to see things differently and to come up with new solutions and to really hear and understand all perspectives. So this phase is what I call the making a difference phase. This is like, I can do this, I can make a difference, I'm helping people, I'm helping animals, I'm helping the planet, I'm helping habitats, I'm helping species, whatever it is. This is now like, when you mastered this, when you've gone through this, you're really ready to handle any situation that comes up. But this process, at least the way I teach it, it takes at least a year to get through all three of these phases and get to this place where you've cleared enough in yourself, you understand yourself well enough, and you can truly be that clear, intuitive, energetic channel to bridge people and animals.
So, that's really interesting. So you say it takes about a year. How much practice time do you recommend if you want to get to that expert level? Like, should you be practicing at least an hour a day, or is it just like once a week, or what do you recommend?
A lot less than people think. I'll start with that. It's not an hour a day. It's maybe not even an hour a week. This is, where if we were teaching this in a university for college students who, had nothing else to do or something, which, what college student doesn't have other things to do, but those demands are different, right? And that phase in our lives is different, where we're really able to focus and spend hours and hours on things. Most of us are learning this as adults with jobs and families and, vacations and weddings to go to and out of state and all this kind of stuff. And I think if you can spend a few minutes a day for a year, you can do this. We have some of my students are on here. They might have a little comment about that, but that's my recommendation, and that's what that intermediate phase is about. For some people, it's really great to go, I have a 2-hour block of time and I'm really going to focus on Saturday afternoons on this. Other people, that feels really overwhelming, and they're like, if I just had, a half hour every other day, that would be great. Or if I took 10 minutes at my lunch break every day to practice animal communication, I could fit that into my life. As we're all wired differently, we also are all in different living situations. We have different backgrounds. We have, different expectations. We have different, I don't want to say work ethics, but we have, different ways of approaching stuff. The short answer is kind of what I said, like, as much time as you feel like, when you feel like doing it, will get you there. And what that looks like for you, you'll find out. You get to decide.
I love that. And then Michelle said, I like hearing the few minutes a day piece, right? We all like to hear that. We don't want to be overwhelmed.
Right. And
Yeah.
so, and Michelle W. and Michelle Jaden are in my academy.
Oh, nice.
And, I noticed Michelle Jaden said 1 or 2 sessions a day for a few minutes here and there. It gets you there. And Michelle Jaden, they're both. Michelle's are excellent communicators already, and they're not even in the final phase of the process yet. So a few minutes a day here and there, talking to nature, talking to your animals. Trust the process, it works.
I love that. I know we want to make things so complicated, right? And really the reality is it's a lot simpler than that.
Yeah.
Yay. So I think that I'm going to save these questions that we have until the end. Like I really want to hear what you have to say about, your next points that you want to make.
So the 3 promises of this workshop are the big picture, right? The 3 phases, the 2 biggest blocks, and then the 4 things to do every day. So The two biggest blocks, if I could put them into two general categories, they would be doubt and fear. And doubt shows up in the self-talk of, this thing happened and I don't think it was real. I think I made it up. Or that made sense, but that's what I wanted to hear, so I'm gonna not believe it. Or I really, really want to be able to do this. And I totally get that Anna Brettenbach talked to that leopard and it changed its name. Like that, I'm totally on board with that, but she's special and different and amazing, and I'm not her. So I don't think I can do this. So I'm just not going to try, right? Or I'm going to procrastinate, or I'm going to sign up for a class, but I'm worried that, I'm not going to be successful, so I'm not going to give it 100%. One of my teachers, when I was getting my master's degree in spiritual psychology, he said that doubt is keeping us hopeful. It's keeping us successful in our minds. And what he meant by that is, as long as you hope you can do it, you have hope that I could be a Reiki master, I could be an animal communicator, you don't ever risk failing. And so if you doubt you can do something, you stay hopeful, like, yeah, someday that'll be great, because in your mind, then you're successful in the future and you never risk failing. So staying in that hopeful state can be, if it's coming from that place, really debilitating, really damaging, really holding us back.
Mm-hmm.
Along with that, but a little bit different in my mind, is the fear factor. The fear of being rejected, being ostracized, of getting it wrong, of making a mistake, right? These are the things that hold most people back. They really think that if I become an animal communicator, it's too much responsibility. And if I get one thing wrong, it's all over, because what if somebody puts their animal to sleep when they didn't want it because I got it wrong? Like, that's the fear of the responsibility of what we're doing and how we're working with animals here and people. So when you have fear as a block, you're also, they're very, very closely tied together, but there's a lot more procrastinating, right? There's a lot more explanation about, the justification of, no, I'm too busy to do that. I'm not going to do that. It's a great idea, but, next year, or, that kind of thing. So these are all the fear and the doubt, the feeling of fear, the feeling of doubt, the thoughts that go along with those experiences and those blocks it really stems from what I call unconscious limiting beliefs from earlier in our lives. So the way they get created is that as kids, our brains are not fully developed until we're in our mid-20s, if that, we're still hoping with our kids. But when we're young and we're trying to figure out the world, we create our core beliefs, and we do it completely automatically, completely unconsciously, and we interpret what happens to us as the way the world works. So, for example, I shared recently in my newsletter that when I was working towards becoming an animal communicator, and I had had a year of training under my belt and I still wasn't successful, I had an argument with my husband, and it doesn't matter what we were arguing about. The thing that happened was that I felt like he wasn't believing the words I was saying to him. Like, why wasn't he listening to me? Why wasn't he believing me? And then I realized that I felt exactly the same way when I was a kid, and I was at the dinner table with my dad, and I'd say, hey, I saw a red rooster on my way home from school today. And he'd be like, did anybody else see that? How can you prove that? Did that really happen? And I was just like, I created this belief that people don't believe me, that I'm not believable. So as I was attracted to becoming an animal communicator and even working towards becoming an animal communicator, I kept being held back by this block that if I become an animal communicator, people will have to believe me for the messages that I share from their animals, but people don't believe me. So I can never succeed. So number one, why try? Why start? And then number two, whenever I did try, it didn't work, right? So that was kind of like early was don't try. And when I was working on it, it wasn't working. I just couldn't get clear communication back from animals. I would try and try and try, and it just wouldn't come in because I had this block. I had this belief that I couldn't be successful because people wouldn't believe me. And so this all happened in just like this snowball of these realizations. And then I was just like, whoa, like that's ridiculous. It's like, I don't lie. I don't even fudge the truth. Like I'm pathologically, embarrassingly honest about everything. And that people should believe me because I would never miss, you know, what I can't even think of the word I was trying to say. I would never mislead anybody. I have so much integrity that I would want to do the absolute 110% best that I could do for people and be as honest and as clear as possible. And so in that moment, I recognized that as a child, I created this belief because of my situation that I was in. As an adult, I realized that's a bunch of bull. And I don't have to keep believing that. And I can update that. It's in my head. I created it. I can uncreate it. And by the way, the truth is that I am honest. I have integrity. I work hard for people. And I will be, as honest as the day is long. And that block, clearing that block for me, opened up the doors to everything. And literally the next day, I'm just noticing that my Zoom is kind of going wonky, so I'm hoping
You're fine. Yeah, we can still hear you. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So literally the very next day, I was going over to see a friend, and I told her, like, I have this dream. It's not happening. I don't know what to do. And she's like, well, just talk to Bear, my dog. And I was like, I don't know how to do that. What do I do? And she just kept looking at me. I was like, okay. And so I closed my eyes. I said, Bear, why? She said, why is Bear mad at my husband? And so I said, okay, Bear, why are you mad at your husband? And I saw this image, and it was Bear on their bed barking at this big scary shadow in the doorway. And I told her what I saw, and she's like, yeah, last night when he turned off the light in the bathroom to come to bed, there was this big scary shadow, and Bear was barking at him because Bear was scared, because Bear's a little chihuahua. So boom, I had my first real success because of clearing that block. And
So
then from there it went on. Yeah.
Yeah, and this is actually was my question, and it's Mary Lynn's question as well. How did you overcome that obstacle? Like, because we have blocks and we can tell ourselves that isn't true, but sometimes that block is really deeply ingrained in us. So how did you do EFT, or did you do one of your other techniques?
So this one, no. This one I did not. This one happened spontaneously, but at this point, I had been in the master's degree program in spiritual psychology at the University of Santa Monica for over a year. And so the whole program, the first year, is learning how do you recognize and how do you clear blocks. The process, is I have a 6-step process that I share in my academy, but I'll break it down a little bit more here. Mm-hmm. If you can recognize the limiting belief. So in that moment, I recognized that I had a belief that people don't believe me. Mm-hmm. Sometimes that's enough. That recognition of taking it out of the unconscious to the conscious is enough. And you're like, poof, that's ridiculous. I'm not keeping that. Sometimes it's not. If it's not, then it's really helpful to go back to the original source of when that belief was created. So I did that spontaneously, right? I remembered back at the dinner table. And emotions and judgments are what hold the blocks in place. So if you can release the emotion, so say I was really sad that my dad didn't believe me, and I had all this sadness coming up, I would just cry. I would let that sadness out. If I was angry, I was like, screw you. How can you not believe me? I would punch a pillow, right? I would get that anger out. I could freeform write and just write all the words that I was never allowed to say as a kid in those situations, right? Releasing that energy and then recognizing the judgment. So I did recognize the judgment. I judged myself as not trustworthy, as not believable. And then I updated that. I forgave myself. I'm like, oops, my bad. I was only 11, 10, 9, who knows? And I made a mistake. I thought that I was not believable based on how my father interacted with me. So I forgave myself for buying into the misunderstanding that I'm not believable. And then I updated my belief. If I'm not unbelievable, I'm believable. If I'm not untrustworthy, I'm trustworthy. And that's the truth. And that's where the truth, that's the final step of the process is, updating that unconscious limiting belief to a conscious truth. It's not even a belief anymore because it's actually true. I'm I'm completely honest. I'm completely trustworthy. I'm completely believable. That's just the truth. So if you have a lot of emotion or a lot of judgments, it's really nice to add in something like EFT tapping. And I do that all the time. And that's something we do in my academy all the time. We tap a lot. And it helps clear the emotions so that we can see the beliefs and then we can update those beliefs. So um, I don't know if I went through the 6 steps in order there, but
Yeah,
that's the
no, that
process.
is really helpful. And Beck said, thank you for explaining the step-by-step changing the unconscious belief of being trustworthy. It's really resonating. I think for women, that resonates a lot, right? Because as you're younger, and we're in that really open stage until we're like 13, where these beliefs start becoming reality for us. So having a way to easily clear that. And this is another reason why joining your academy is so important, because it's not just about direct animal communication. Here's how you do it, 1, 2, 3. It's you also have deeper understandings, deeper clearings like this, which is really powerful. So thank you so much for taking the time to go through that.
Yeah, thanks for asking me to break it down like that. So I think that's kind of like the big picture of the blocks, unless people have other questions about the blocks. I think kind of explains it.
Yeah. And then also you talk about that too in your book as well. You talk about the block. So, if you don't want to join the academy right now, you can get Dr. Cara's book, and I'll put in the chat as we get closer to the end, I'll put all the links to all of these for you. And then we'll also be posting the links on YouTube as well. So don't worry about having to find that right now. We will make this easy for you.
Yeah, totally. And I guess this would be an opportunity. I am teaching actually a 3-hour workshop on clearing your blocks to becoming an animal communicator on Friday. I've only really shared it with my own community, but of course, everybody here, if you're feeling like that's the linchpin for you, that's the thing that you need, maybe Leah, we could also share information about that in a
Yeah,
follow-up.
I'll add that right now just because I have it up. But yes, this is a great opportunity to clearing your blocks really quickly. If you like, for me, I have an appointment that contradicts that. Is this going to be recorded if we?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it's recorded. There will be a replay, and there's a workbook that goes with it. So even if you had to do it later on your own, you have the workbook to follow through, along with during the workshop.
Wonderful. That's fantastic. So yeah, thank you so much for that. I mean, when I saw that I got your email about that, I thought, oh wow, that's such an important topic, because even in animal Reiki too, we have that. You have blocks. Oh, is this really working? Oh, because if you're not, like as an animal communicator, if you're not getting the messages or you aren't trusting them, then you have to trust things intuitively. And if you don't even trust that, that can really stop you from having that clear communication, right? We're putting up blocks and walls. So this is great. So do you want to do some questions, or would you like to do the last point for things we can do every day?
Well, the last stuff's going to go really fast because we've already covered so much of it. So why don't we do that, and then we'll just open it
Yeah,
up.
perfect. That sounds great.
So this is such a phenomenon of the modern world. Last year, I created this 4 things to do every day. I was like, what are the 4 things, and what do people need to know? And this is like literally one of the most popular videos on my whole YouTube channel, which I'm not sure why, but it's for anything really. Like, I apply this to animal communication, but for you guys who don't, who are doing animal Reiki, it would be the same thing for animal Reiki or for any goal. These are 4 things that I think if a person did this every day, it would, number one, naturally boost your intuitive abilities. These are the average daily couple minutes a day things to do that automatically help you become a clear channel, help you boost your intuitive abilities, and help you become more calm, more grounded, more centered, more effective in the world, and a better, more effective animal communicator. And these are the things that I do every day still. So I've been a professional animal communicator. This is my 14th year. And these are things I do every day. So it's not like you get there. Like, you get there and you keep using them because they keep working, because we're only human. And it's not like, I'm living on some mountaintop where there's no stress and no challenges. I do these every day to keep myself a clear channel for animal communication, for teaching my students, for my family, for myself, all of it. So number one, meditate. I know this is a cliche, you guys, but it really, really freaking works. If you find the right one, and I will qualify that. There's a million ways to meditate, and it took me years to find a meditation technique that I felt like was reliably shifting me into that meditative state. And for me, it was primordial sound meditation from the Chopra Institute. But since then, I really love Dawson Church. He calls it an eco meditation. I got it out of his Bliss Brain book. And it's the 7 reliable steps to go through to get into, to scientifically rigorously tested. If you follow these 7 steps, you will get into that meditative state. So a lot of the videos that I have on my YouTube channel follow one or the other of those. The other one I love is Thich Nhat Hanh and the mindfulness meditation of just focusing on your breathing and maybe having a few words. There's walking meditations, there's mantra meditations, there's object focus meditations, there's silent meditations, there's chanting meditations, there's nature bath meditations. Like, find the one that works for you. If what you've tried so far doesn't work, that's okay. There's a million techniques. Find one that works for you. And I've used all of these at different times, and on different days, I'll do a different meditation. This morning, I did my primordial sound meditation. Yesterday, I did what I like, the bliss brain. I like calling it a bliss brain meditation with an animal. So I do have, I think my 3 most recent meditation videos on my YouTube channel are the bliss brain technique, and other ones are the mindfulness technique. So try different things, but take some time every day to slow down, to go inward, to close your eyes, to breathe, and just kind of reset that nervous system. Number 2, the second thing to do every day is affirmations. Affirmations really do get at that unconscious programming that we all have. And they're reprogramming your unconscious programs, or they're going to bring them up to be healed. So either way, they're working for you. Either you're like, oh yeah, I am the greatest animal communicator in the world, or you're like, I'm not at all. Oh, I'm upset. I can clear that. That's a block. Okay. So either way, affirmations are totally working for you. So any affirmation that you like, anything that resonates with you, that feels like what you want more of in your life, have that as an affirmation. Say it every day, a few times a day, whatever you want to do. But affirmations are really powerful. Number 3 is self-forgiveness. And self-forgiveness is really about recognizing that we are the source of our experience in the world. And our belief system is created way before it should be, like way before we know what we're doing. And so we have a lot of self-talk that's very negative. So if you are finding yourself in negative self-talk, the way I do it is I forgive myself for judging myself as a butthead because I said that's awkward thing, right? Like I just do it that fast in that moment. I really watch my thoughts and I catch myself, and gradually I'm really rewriting those self-talk scripts from you can't do this, who do you think you are, why did you think you could be good at this, you're so awkward and nerdy, like all those things that we're all doing, right? But I catch myself and I go, I forgive myself for judging myself as awkward and nerdy. The truth is I'm just a regular human being who sometimes I say some really good stuff and sometimes it just comes out raw, right? Like I can be both. That's okay. So that self-forgiveness is really the key. It dissolves the glue that's holding those patterns and those blocks in place. The more you can get comfortable with catching the negative self-talk and just updating it, it's just like brushing your teeth every day, right? You're just keeping things moving good. And then, of course, the 4th thing to do every day is to connect with an animal in some way. If you don't have an animal in your family, there are probably animals around you. There are nature programs. There are books, but just for me, that connection with an animal on any level is so key for reminding me of who I am, of who we all are. We're all animals. We're all connected to life on this planet. We're part of the whole living, breathing macroorganism that is planet Earth and all of its inhabitants. And when we connect with animals, we open our hearts, we open our minds, and we shift our energy so that we are more in our natural state, which is where we want to be in general, but is also where we want to be animal communicators.
I love that you said that, in our more natural state, because we think that we're going into a state that's unnatural, but it's actually our natural state, right?
Yeah.
I love that so much. So Dr. Cara, I want to start because I know we're coming to time and you have a hard stop. So I want to get to some of these questions. And I apologize. I'm going to try to say your name. I think it's Stasso, said that they've communicated many times and they know they're doing it right because of the feedback. But their question is about blockage, going back to blocks. They feel every time they start any communication, the first few minutes, they don't really believe they can do it, and then later get the information. Are there any suggestions for this?
Yeah, so there's 2 ways to approach that. Number 1 is just to take more time to set up, right? So I really like, if I'm working with a client, I'll say, I'm going to be silent with my eyes closed for at least 2 minutes. That's how I set myself up for success. And it sounds like you're getting there, but you have that awkward time in the beginning. So if you just take a minute or 2 at the beginning to say, this is my process, I need to close my eyes, I'll be silent, and then I'll be really ready to be there 100% for you. I think you'll bypass some of that doubting and all of that because you'll already be in that receptive state. The other side of it is if this is an ongoing thing and if that doesn't work, if that fix doesn't work, then sit down and go through those 6 steps that we talked about earlier and just, write down what's the issue, what happened, what are my feelings about it, and what are the judgments I made, and start to explore it and either tap on it or just, go through the steps that I just explained for my block. That process of outside of the situation, clearing the block is super, super effective. So that down the road, that's like your little investment. So every time down the road, you're not taking as long to get set up. That would be my two suggestions.
Nice. Thank you. And then Mary Lynn asked the question earlier, is there a way to verify the message from an animal?
There is, and I recommend you don't even think about that until you're in phase 3. Because you need so many experiences under your belt to just figure out how this process works. As soon as you worry about getting it right, or you judge yourself like, oh well, I'm not good at this because I didn't get it right, or it's that external validation. The external validation has a time and a place, and in my opinion, it's not in those first two phases. Those first two phases are about exploration and practice, and just doing it. And then maybe in that intermediate phase, you start to go, okay, I need some encouragement and validation. But in the beginning, it's more just show up and do it a whole bunch, and suspend disbelief until you're at least in phase 2, if not phase 3.
That's really good information. I don't think I ever would have thought that. So really valuable information there. Thank you for that. And thank you for that question. And then Carla wanted to know what happens when I have numerous animals in a location and I do want to know who is giving me the message.
You can ask. So my my favorite advice is ask the next question. So if you have 10 horses and somebody says my left front hoof is sore and you don't know where it's coming from, then ask, who is this? Give me some way to identify you. How do I figure out who you are? The animals will help you, and you're allowed to ask more questions to get it. Nobody expects you to just be able to, you know, like the guys on the TV shows, right? Like, oh, somebody's father is XYZ, and it's you. And they want you to know that you should buy that stock, right? Like that's showmanship. That's not what we're doing. We are, in a lot of ways, detectives. We have to be able to, one of the challenges of being an animal communicator is being able to hold that receptive right brain state, analyze it with our left so that we can ask the next question and go back into that right brain straight state. So we're going back and forth a lot. It takes training. That's why we don't do that until the third phase. So if you're at that point, slow down. Ask the next question, ask who it is.
I love that because that happens. I know when I had 3 dogs, we had an animal communicator come and talk to my one little dog. She kept talking over everyone else. And so the animal communicator was telling me, I go, nope, that's still Reba. Nope, that's not Leo or Titus. It's still Reba. She just wanted to talk. So it's really funny. There was a question, and we have a couple more. I just want to be conscious of the time here. There was a question. Can you practice with a photo of a friend's pet?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, you can practice any way that you want. You can just, hear a bird outside and with your intention, connect to that bird and talk to that bird. A photo really helps our brains focus in so that, the noise of somebody else chiming in is less likely. And I am a huge advocate for having fewer rules. So don't make rules about I have to be there and touch the animal. I have to have a photo of the animal. I have to see both eyes in the photo. It has to be a recent photo. Take as many rules out as you can and explore and give it a try.
I love that. So one more question, and then we're going to get to the Academy because both Christy and Michelangelo are very curious about the Academy. But the one last question is, how do you deal with sad emotional news if you hear this from the pet, from the animal that you're listening to?
So you should not be dealing with it. That's my tough love answer. Um, as a clear channel, you are conveying that animal's perspective and message, and you are simply there as a translator. So there's going to be sad stuff, there's going to be angry stuff, there's going to be stuff that you wouldn't want to hear from somebody, but holding that space, bearing witness, and being a true um, channel, a clear channel, an unbiased channel, a not changing the message channel, is a powerful, powerful role to play in anybody's life, and especially an animal who has not had a voice, who needs to be seen, who needs to be heard, who needs to be recognized and witnessed. And so that's why I say, wait for the challenging stuff, because part of the process of getting good at this is being able to achieve that neutrality where we get that there's hardness out there, there's struggle, there's challenges, there's sadness, there's grief, there's scary news, there's medical things that we don't want to have happen, that we don't want to be part of, but we're part of it because we are the channel for that information. So my recommendation in those cases is, number one, trust the animal. They're giving you the information in the way that their person can receive it. And number two, if you are triggered about it, that means that you have your own block and your own stuff to work on. So do that later at another time, but acknowledge that then and come back to center so that you make sure that the message that you're getting is accurate from the animal and you can convey it accurately to their person. That is the highest calling, I think, of animal communication, is to be the clear, honest, loving, neutral witness for what is so, and to share that honestly and open. It's powerful.
Very. Thank you so much for that. And so we are coming to time. And I would just love for you to talk a little bit about your academy before we have to go.
Thank you. Thanks everybody for your interest in the academy. The academy is a 10 module program. It goes through those 3 phases. We work on blocks all the way through, and it is a combination. It's kind of a hybrid. It's the curriculum is self-study, so it's a lot of videos, workbooks, worksheets, audios, practices that you can do on your own in your own way, in your own time. And then we have 3 live calls with me every month. So you get 2 Q&A calls with me where you, just like this on Zoom, we're all just hanging out together, talking about stuff. And then we get an animal communication practice session each month with an animal connected to somebody in the academy, so that we do have an opportunity to verify our messages and refine our techniques so that we're getting accurate messages. And the thing that makes the academy different than anything else that's out there is it's lifetime access. So you pay once and you get me for as long as you can stand me, which means even after you finish the curriculum, you can keep coming back and I will mentor you through whatever comes next for you, whether it's working with your own animals, whether it's starting a business, volunteering at a shelter, you have a challenge that comes up, you can always have a place to come and get my help and mentoring on that. So I think that's the brief overview about it.
Yeah, I love that. And, it's just a wonderful opportunity to get to work with you more closely and get your expertise. I think it's such an incredible offering. And again, I put in the links a couple times, the Clearing Your Block webinar that's coming up this Friday. What time is that, Cara?
That's it. The Clearing Your Blocks workshop is from 12 to 3 Pacific time on Friday the 17th.
Great. And it's $107. So really reasonable fee, and you get 3 hours and a workbook. I know that I am definitely signing up. I don't know if I'll be able to attend, but I'm definitely going to sign up because this is a really important thing. Even in Animal Reiki, this is such an important topic. So we do have a drawing that we did. I did it before this. So it's a drawing for the Confident Animal Communicator. You can also find this on Amazon. And I think you can find it on your website as well. And the website is CaraGubbins.com. And the winners are Joan Widener, Margaret Sauer, Saur, and Lori Klein. So if you're here, congratulations. If not, no worries. We will get this out to you. We'll be reaching out to you via email to get your address so that we can get the books sent to you. And thank you so much, Dr. Cara, for coming and for sharing your expertise. I know we've got a lot of thank yous in the chat, and we'll be posting the chat. Look for the YouTube replay tomorrow on the Sarah YouTube, but we're also giving this to Cara so she can put it on her YouTube as well. And we'll have the chat there and we'll have links to everything. But do sign up for the Blocks webinar today. If possible, you've got the link right here, and I'll put it in one more time just so it's down there. Be sure to sign up. So thank you so much, Cara, for being here, for sharing your wisdom. It's been amazing.
Oh, thank you, Leah. You're super welcome. And can we just all do some jazz hands for Leah? Because she's so incredible.
Thank you.
Wow.
Oh my gosh, too much. Thank you so much. But this was a really fun session, and I really hope to be able to do the class on Friday. But if not, everyone else, please get on there. We all have these blocks, and as was shared today, there are some really simple steps, but if we get more deep into that, and we've got this great workbook too that we can use. So thank you so much. And don't forget to do the quiz. I'm a knower. It was so eye-opening for me. Oh, and the wonderful thing is when you do take the quiz, you get this beautiful little kind of handout workbook that talks all about what that means to be a knower and what you can do and how to communicate as a knower. So that was really super helpful. So be sure to take the quiz, learn more about Dr. Cara and animal communication. And yes, the link to the quiz is, I already did that, but I will do that one more time before we go. And do you have any last closing words before we leave?
Yes, just say yes. Just go for it and keep going for it and keep doing what you're doing. Like this group, we're changing the world together. So keep being you and keep going.
Oh my gosh, I love that so much because it's so true. It is so true. I'm just going to put really quickly, there's the link to the quiz. And again, we're going to be putting this tomorrow on our YouTube. There'll be links to everything that we've talked about. And I made some notes about some of the people that Cara talked about, like what one was Darren Church, right? Or
Dawson Church.
Dawson Church. Oh, I can't read my writing. Dawson Church, because I thought that was a really interesting. And don't forget to go on her YouTube and get some of these meditations. I mean, these are meditations that work for her. They might work for you. So don't forget to do that as well. All right, everyone. Thank you so much. Mwah. So much gratitude. Love you all. Bye.